What's going on, YouTube? I'm back. Y'all thought she was going to run me away from talking politics, didn't you? Oh, no. Fuck that. We are here to talk about the implosion of Elon Musk and MAGA. When will we see the PP tapes? Because we know they got dirt on each other. We're going to discuss that. Closer to the end of the show, we're going to talk about stocks. A lot of you guys seek me out for stocks and real estate advice. I'm going to give you some advice, and I'm also tell you out of about 6 billionaires, who's lost money and who's gained money. We'll cover that. And then in some tragic news, we had a redneck wanting to beat up on people at one of the protests this weekend. Joining me today is a friend to the community, has one of the most popular progressive podcasts in all of the United States. He's coming to join me, and it starts right now. Let's go.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Britt Whitmire of the Brad and Britt Podcast. What's going on, Britt?
Man, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. I don't even know why you're having me on. Nothing's going on. Everything's just kind of chill, and I guess we'll try to figure out something to talk about.
Man, stop it. Golly. So, Britt, I've started a new section under my podcast. You know, I'm rebranding this other YouTube channel, and it's called The Politics of Being Black. That's where I'm going to do all my talk about politics and finances, stocks, and all that thing. And so one thing I've started doing, I start to show off as an icebreaker to, I call it the politics of being black, where you get to give your grievances, at least one grievance on something that's petty. And for when I have non-black people, I call it the MAGA politics. Give me the grievances you have with MAGA mother effers and whatever. And I'll give you mine first, my brother. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, you go for it first, and I'll follow up.
Please don't laugh, but I'm going to say it. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I am politicking about as being a black person is I'm tired of white people thinking that because I'm black, because I was born with brown skin, that my ass can dance. I'm sick of that shit. It's like, folks, I've got 2 left feet like Ashanti. And whenever I'm at a party and I'm one of the few black people and the music starts hitting, don't be looking at me. Do not look at me. That's one of the things I'm politicking on, ladies and gentlemen, being black. Everybody black can't dance. Britt, what you got for us?
Yeah. Well, how are you at basketball, though? I mean, can you pretty good at basketball, or?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not at the advanced age of 40. Nope, not anymore. Sorry. and another one that I'm politicking on, because I'm black, don't think I can jump high either, motherfucker.
I'm tired of it because I'm white. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just laughing at what you said.
My food, okay? Don't be saying that I can't do that.
Okay. All right. And so, Britt, where do I begin with your president? Lord have mercy. I think it's only fair we start, Britt, with the calamity that he caused in terms of the stock market. Okay. And when all this stuff hit the fan, his fat ass decided that he wanted to go play golf, Britt. And not only did he go play golf while the market was crashing for millions of Americans, he also skipped out on something that has been a tradition for presidents for years. So let me give you a look at this, and then I'll let you go first with the commentary. Take a look at this.
The anti-Trump hands-off protest, as it's called, was one of hundreds taking place simultaneously nationwide. Arnold Brennan was on the ground speaking with protesters about their biggest concerns.
I haven't seen a demonstration this big in Chicago ever.
Like oceans of people.
But it looks like this entire square is full.
When a protest gets too big for Daley Plaza, people stand where they can.
In the middle of the street.
This crowd stands against President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk. Their message is hands off.
Hands off!
Hands off!
A protest against the administration's actions to cut government jobs. A group of seniors in Edgewater can't make it downtown, so they protest in front of their retirement community.
Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey.
In the capital city of Lithuania yesterday, thousands of soldiers and dignitaries, and also just ordinary people, lined up in the streets to pay their respects and to honor 4 American soldiers who died in Lithuania this past week during a training exercise. In our country, of course, it is a sacred tradition that when members of the armed services die in the line of duty overseas, their remains come home to the U.S. in what's called a dignified transfer. Their remains are flown home specifically to Dover Air Base with American flags draped over the coffins. It's a very somber, very important, very serious, very specific ceremony. And a dignified transfer is often attended by the President of the United States as a sign of respect from the Commander-in-Chief. The White House announced here in the United States that when those 4 young fallen American soldiers landed back home here in the U.S., President Donald Trump would not attend the dignified transfer. He would not be waiting at Dover to pay respects to the service members who died, even as Lithuania's president made sure he was there to see them off. Donald Trump has decided instead that he's going to Florida to watch a golf tournament and to go to a golf dinner. This is how Donald Trump, President of the United States, responded when he was asked about the service members in Lithuania after they were first went missing.
Have you been briefed about soldiers in Lithuania? Have you been briefed about the soldiers in Lithuania who are missing?
No, I haven't.
God. Oh, Lord. Britt. We have come to expect this type of grift from our president. But the question I want to pose to you, given everything you just seen, why is it that so many of the people that used to tell me and you that they love our country, they love the military, thank you for your service, why are they all of a sudden okay with this type of behavior? Floor is yours, my brother.
I did see the story from Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, and Maggie, a lot of people have. She said that the fact that he didn't go to the dignified transfer of the Lithuanian soldiers that died in Lithuania is just evidence that he's not even caring about the optics anymore. He's done with even trying to fake. You saw those pros to do was to have a rally. He would have a rally all over the place. He loved to go to Alabama quite frequently. He can't find anybody that likes him anymore. So all I can tell you now is that all of the MAGA guys who for him and he said, "My God, faking it for them anymore." He just doesn't care.
Lord have mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a damn shame. And the shame is not of Trump. I mean, yes, he's a shame. If there was ever a dictionary that was walking and it had the meaning of shame, he's it. But we've already learned that he could care less. The shame is all you MFers that swear up and down you care about the military.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. I used to always say, if we really want to thank people in the military for their service, pay them more. If anything, the services that we promise them when they get back, make those better. That's a great start. And we haven't wanted to have the guts to do it because you MFers keep voting for this type of grift. And so Britt so eloquently kind of talked about the protests that we had break out over the weekend. And there was protests, not just here, ladies. We had them in all the major cities here, but there was protests worldwide. And Britt is a good friend of mine. We see each other here and there. We've been knowing each other since he did his radio show. And we are able to talk to each other about things so that we can learn from each other's background, each other's history, inclusive things. Right. And the next thing I'm going to show Britt is MAGA going mad again. And the differences we have to say as Black people of what would happen had we done something. So all the protests was peaceful, Britt, except for the people that didn't like the protest. So take a look at this bum who looks like he's a knuckle dragger at night and hangs from mountains by his teeth during the day. Look what he did in this protest to go after a woman. Then men come get his ass, and then all of a sudden he wants to try and get tough. Take a look at this.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Everybody that way! 911! You jumped out of your car, please! You're walking between walking traffic! No, he's gonna take off! He's gonna try to go!
Jessica D. This is James Jordan's wife. James Jordan is a wannabe Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I want to point out Jessica because I posted this review of Refinery, and that is a dispensary for cannabis. If you know anything about Indiana, you would know that we live in the 1940s in the Hoosier State, and cannabis is illegal, Jessica. And what I find so hypocritical, and you made sure to tell everybody that your husband legally was harassing people with his gun, but you are consuming cannabis in a state where it's illegal. So make that make sense, Jessica. This is why we protest, because people like you don't understand. If you were black or brown, you wouldn't be going home. Your husband would be in jail, and you would have some issues. You would have to face the justice system.
Britt, let me follow up a little bit more eloquently than that young lady that was talking in monotone, only a little slower. Basically, what she's saying is there's a double standard for minorities. we know that. And then secondly, there's a double standard when it comes to these protests. So whenever Fox News covers protests like this, and if it's a black-driven protest, they always find a few that might get a little rowdy, possibly agitated, and knock over some dumpsters, looking for scraps, whatever, and they say that that's the worst shit in the world. Here we have Mr. MAGA, whose gut is down to his knees,
right?
Get out of the conditional black pickup truck. We used to call it the nigger dragon truck, and comes out with the pow pow, and nobody else has a gun, Britt. And one thing that we in the black community have always said is white men don't worship Bibles. They worship guns. And so homeboy got away with this, Britt. He just had to go to jail, sit down, and was released. When you see this type of stuff, what does it invoke for you? What does it invoke for you? Uh-oh, did I lose him? I think I lost him. Can you hear me, Britt?
No, I'm back.
Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, just tell me what you think about that situation. Okay.
What was your question? It was when I see that sort of thing, what does it invoke in me?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think you're totally right about the double standard as far as it goes in the justice system, and usually as far as it goes in the media. And what really kind of strikes me particularly about that clip is that now social media has surpassed legacy media. We used to see all of those things. My God, when you talk about representing black people in a bad light, I remember one time on Fox they were like, "Well, Patti LaBelle's security guard beat somebody up in an airport." And I was like, they'll do anything to try to make a black person look bad on Fox News, and they just go all over the place. But when you have social media like you were just showing us this clip, we can see exactly what happened. We can see the double standard. We can see the person, and we can actually document. We can dox these people now and make them answer for their bad behavior. Sometimes, in fact, when the police, what also struck me as I work for, I see the guy out there screaming and saying 911, 911, and I certainly have understood and have experienced it in the Black community. They feel like there is a double standard when it comes to getting services. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be an ambulance, doesn't matter whether it's going to be a cop to come to their house to help them out. I mean, how long as a joke by Public Enemy came out? 35 years ago, 36 years ago, something like that. And people were terribly offended. Immediately, the guy gets out and he thinks that he's going to get the police to get on his side to get these people off of him. And it turns out, the double standard continues, but we're able to, through social media and through showing the real story about what happened, we're able to get a different view about what's going on out there in the streets. So I'm glad that that's one good thing about social media. Social media on many occasions is really bad, and having those cameras all over the place tends to be not great. But in this case, when you're able to see exactly what happened, exactly who the instigator was, exactly who the guy with the guns were, then it makes a lot more sense. And you can see how social media and how it really is taking the lead over traditional media. And that's why people are believing it a lot more.
And sadly, Britt, that cuts both ways, because as many people that report facts and cite their sources, we do have a complete dumpster fire that people who have biases go to get those biases fulfilled, and it's never rooted in fact. And they support con men like the con man in chief we have today. So, like you said, it can be a double-edged sword. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but when used properly, it can enlighten people for those who are trying to show that we're progressive. We all want to get along together. We want the rules to be the same for everybody. Well, at least us oppressed folks do. And apparently you've got a lot of MAGA folks that understand it and don't want it. And so, I'm sorry.
It's also no, you're right. There's a lot, but there's been a lot of our history that's been trying to be erased, and then now DEI has become a bad thing, and it's become a curse word. It's become a 3-letter word, and they're trying to, the things that we've talked about for a number of years. Certainly, we're coming up on the 5th anniversary of George Floyd being murdered right in front of our eyes by a police officer, Derek Chauvin, and they're trying to erase a lot of the history and a lot of the idea that there is systemic racism, that Black people have been treated differently, that Black people, I always think about it in terms of this, particularly in the town that we live in Greensboro. It's like a lot of other towns, not only southern towns, but northern towns. There is a section of Greensboro where Black folks were allowed to live, and then after that, heavily encouraged. And not surprisingly, that part of town, ever since that I've known and been coming to Greensboro for 40 years now, they've talked about that section of town not being up to standard as far as economic mobility. But they've talked about that's what's been going on, and people have made good faith efforts, and then politicians have also given them kind of an the okey doke when it comes to that sort of stuff. But the MAGA movement is trying to erase all that. There is no systemic racism. Nah, there is no lack of opportunity. There is no lack of social mobility. There is no lack of educational, of certain pieces of literature and art that illustrate that experience. And that's very sad. But again, we're not going to let that happen.
Exactly. Fight, 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 ladies and gentlemen. You can have some control in how all this stuff goes. Go to town halls, go to city council meetings, call your legislators. I know that sometimes it feels like that doesn't work, but when it's done in mass, it does put pressure on them not to keep doing this foolishness. Those are little small things you can do to control your avenue to help let folks know that you're trying to be heard. Definitely encourage you to do that. And Britt, there was somebody who tried to warn us about what was coming with this MAGA mess. Somebody tried to warn us that if Trump got in office, the economy would go into shitter. And I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to ask you what was it about this clip that I personally didn't like? Are you ready, brother? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking
all over the place. Get some wacky formula, new tariffs. And everything's in the shitter because of it. I'm down $7 million.
That has been taking hold in our country. And I understand it. But we're saying people stay quiet. We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing those who are capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. And these are the things that we are witnessing each day in these last few months in our country. And it understandably creates a great sense of fear. Because, you know, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
Well, Britt, in the middle of Kamala, you had one of the chairs at Barstool Sports, a grifter, a MAGA knight. He's all into the crypto bull jive. And he didn't get the memo that crashing the stock market was going to be something that was going to come. And now he's sitting over there fucking crying. But having said that, Britt, what part of that clip do you think gets on my nerves?
Well, there is another part of that. There's another clip that I saw from Portnoy where he goes, nobody told me this was going to happen. Nobody told me that the tariffs were like, and he acknowledges, okay, yeah, well, the left said that was going to happen, but I don't know if we get a long way with the I told you so's. But one of the things that's been surprising to some of these people, and it's kind of interesting to folks like you and I who voted for Kamala Harris, so like they've been surprised that this is going to happen. I'll grant you that Donald Trump's the biggest liar of all time. He lies about everything. He didn't lie about any of this. And if Kamala did anything in that one clip, she understated that we'd be in a recession by the middle of the year. We might beat that. The only thing, and I tried, everybody's got their thing about what the messaging should have been last year, about what she should have said, about what the Democrats should have said. I just wish that they would have beaten the idea, 3 words, tariffs are taxes. And I wish they would have just said that over and over again until people were sick of hearing it. Because people didn't understand what are tariffs, how do tariffs work, who pays for tariffs, and it was a lack of education. But yes, everything that is going on now in the stock market, in the economy, completely predictable. And Dave Portnoy, who likes to dabble a little bit into politics, and he's very his wading into politics, it's only about an inch deep as far as what he gets into, and he doesn't really understand it now. I think he's down about $30 million, but he says he's okay, and he still is okay with not voting for Kamala Harris. So don't you worry, even though he's seeing his money lit on fire right in front of his face, even though you've seen it done with absolutely no goal in sight. The idea that you would raise tariffs, plunge America into a recession, which is exactly what's happened, watch trillions of dollars just vanish, and then go to people and go, it's okay. You just wait. We're going to establish plants all over the place and have factories. We're going to make everything here in America. You just hang in there. And I think back to the great Jimmy Carter, who we lost a few months ago. Jimmy Carter, in about 1978, or 1979. I can't remember which. He gets on television. He goes, we're having some problems right here, and I hear you guys belly aching. There's an energy crisis. Could you do this for me? Could you turn your thermostat down to about 68 or 67 degrees and wear a sweater around the house? And what did America say to that? I live in, by God, America. that when they were asked to make a sacrifice so simple, they said no. And now Donald Trump is saying, "Nah, I just need you to lose a whole bunch of money and probably a lot of jobs and go into recession. But I'm telling you, on the other side of this, there's going to be greener pastures. You're going to love it. You won't know how to spend all of that money." That is the bullshit that's being fed to America. And unfortunately, some people are still buying it. Some people have had the scales fall from their eyes, but some people are still buying it.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's pathetic how they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes to believe that this is about creating jobs that eventually are going to help you in the future while they ruin the now. And if you want to know how Fox News feels about this, the same place that the minute Joe Biden's stock market went down 0.5% was saying it's the end of the damn world. There was 1 week the stock market went down 2%. And they was trying to say Joe Biden is tanking the economy. Well, Trump just sent America through 3 days of hell that we haven't seen since 1987. Wiped out trillions of dollars. Yeah. This is what Fox News wants you to believe.
And you know what? I don't really care about my 401k today. You know what? Not that I can afford it, not that it isn't important, not that I'm not at a point in my life when I should be worried about my 401k, because I am. But this is what I believe. I believe in this man.
People have noticed that just about every...
The fuck? Lady, there are people trying to retire now.
Well,
Britt,
as a person who's not that young anymore and is trying to do that, yeah, that's Judge Denise Pirro, and things are so bad she might have to switch to box wine at some point. LT,
she might have to change what time her show comes on, Britt, because it's just not going to be working for her when she's got to get them 2 jobs to sustain everything. But for those of you that want to have a view in of what's really going on, why? Because some of you probably are thinking, why is he doing this? Like, I know some of you have legit questions as to why he's doing this, because you know it's not for no damn jobs. He's doing it for power. He's doing it for control. This is how you get to be a fascist country. You have one branch of the government that controls everything. And what his plan is, you slap all these tariffs on everybody, and then you can give certain companies that kiss his butt, kiss his feet, and tell him everything is good. He'll give them waivers so that they don't have to pay for the shit. Okay? And by doing that, you are subjecting companies to have to be beholden to your bull job. And we've already seen this playbook. Like, think about what he's doing with DEI. If you're not down for if you are not going to get rid of DEI, he's put you in the bullseye. He's throwing you through all kinds of regulatory bull job. He's threatening to take your money. He's doing the same thing with the damn terrorist people. And while doing that, you're going to have to pay for it. The corporations ain't paying for this shit. Go ahead, Britt.
No, I do have thoughts on this, because if you thought that there was some sort of method to the madness, which there may not be, because he's a toddler just throwing poo-poo at the wall, basically is what's happening. But if you thought there might be some sort of method to the madness, and you're going to remember this, the talk show host Neil Bortz was very keen on promoting what he called the fair tax. Wrote books about it, was a proponent. The fair tax was nothing more than a national sales tax, and I don't remember the exact details of it. You may more than I do. I think it was around 30% they wanted to tack on to goods and services, and they said, but wait, you're going to get your entire paycheck. The federal government will have nothing taken out of your paycheck, no federal tax, no Medicare, no Social Security, and out of that 30%, we will take all that and blah, blah, blah. Well, a national sales tax is necessarily very regressive. No, most of you who are watching this know what that means. That means that it hurts poor people more than it hurts rich people. If a rich person has to pay 30% more for a yacht, it's not a huge deal. But if you have to pay 30% more for your groceries, that's kind of a big deal. And if you wanted to assign a Dr. Evil 30,000 foot view kind of thing to this, is that the whole idea of tariffs would be shifting tax burden to eventually get to a national sales tax, which again would be very helpful toward rich people and very bad for poor people.
100%. 100%. And Britt speaks about, there was this talk radio show host, and he was pushing this thing called the fair tax. And it's no different from people pushing the damn flat tax. It's one of my favorite financial people, Clark Howard, speaks about a flat tax. It's the same difference. It's going to hurt those who don't have a lot of money. And I trust Clark, but I think he's short-sighted on that. And the reason being is that because too many people have gotten away with taking advantages of what American-style tax policy and capitalism has allowed them to do. If we would have started from the beginning with a flat tax or a fair tax, it would be understandable. But to just plop it in now, no way. It's going to hurt those who are already hurting. And even with that plan being proposed, there was no talk of, well, okay, we're going to get this 30%. Does that really balance the budget? Are we still going to be able to pay the obligations we need to pay to the society the way it should be done? There was none of that discussed, ladies and gentlemen, because there was no plan for that. There wasn't.
Well, in fact, there was also, you'll recall hearing this a lot, there were a lot of prebate checks for poor people, for the less fortunate and stuff like that, which creates another level of federal bureaucracy. It became a real mess if you listened to him for a while, but of course he was really intent on this. Of those two things that you talked about, the flat tax versus the fair tax, I think you're correct in saying both are regressive. It feels to me like the flat tax is less injurious than the national sales tax, the fair tax is, but both are very unfair in their own way. And we, again, not being able to fund the federal government. The job right now and what they're doing is by firing all these people and making these federal agencies, it would be impossible for them to accomplish what they need to accomplish in their charters to help the American people. They can now look back after they fire all these people and just disembowel these agencies. Goes, look, we told you, government sucks. It's terrible. Well, yeah, when you kick the shit out of it, it really is very, very bad. It doesn't work for people. And so you guys are showing us that on a big level right now.
And Britt, while we're on this subject of tariffs and what tariffs are doing, ladies and gentlemen, this is a double-edged sword again, because Britt just mentioned, not only are we seeing people's retirement money drop, but then we're seeing people getting fired because of Trump's dumbass policies. You see how that's creating control? Number one, you're losing your job, so you're losing your current income. And those of you that could lose the job and go ahead and say you're going to retire, you can't do that shit right now because you done lost millions of dollars. So he's trying to set up a situation where you are totally beholden to him and the people he loves. And that's another way I can show you how it's working. You lose your job because of him. You don't have an income. Then the retirement you've saved all these years that was growing just got cut almost a third, and you think you're going to try to live off that. He's shaving that down. Then they're coming after your Social Security too, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about controlling you to do their bidding. I need y'all to wake up and see that. Speaking of which,
what is the irony of what you just said, though? The irony is that they've always accused the left of trying to make people just beholden to the federal government on everything, right? That they're the ones that have said, hey, you just want the left wants people just to be beholden and get their food and get their clothing and get their housing and get their retirement and get everything from the federal government. And that's what the left does. And now here he is doing every accusation is a projection. And I did want to go back very quickly to talk about what we did at the very beginning with the veterans. And you said something about paying the veterans. And you're absolutely right. If you care about, when they talk about increasing the defense budget and then they pat themselves on the back over the defense budget, it's always a defense contractor they're talking about who gets paid. It ain't the soldiers. It ain't the sailors. It ain't the Marines. It ain't the airmen. It ain't all those people. Somebody tell me, the people who always thought the Republican Party was the party of the military. Somebody needs to tell me who's fired more veterans from civilian jobs in the first 70 days of their administration other than Donald Trump. Somebody needs to tell me that. They don't even fake it anymore. What you could do if you really wanted to lie to people, and they're very good at lying, is that Elon could come forth and say, hey, I just cut $8 billion from blah, blah, blah. We know it's bullshit. We know they're lying. We know the stuff that they're saying that they're saving the American people. They're not saving. That's been well documented. But you could lie to people and go, we cut $8 billion. We're going to take a billion of that. We're going to put that into the VA. We're going to hire more nurses. We're going to update the facilities. You could lie. They don't even bother to do that anymore, Lamont.
Well, they don't have to, Britt. They've got the power right now.
Yeah.
And Florida broke our hearts with those House seats. Even though we expected that to happen, we were hoping that those people were so mad at MAGA that they would overlook their pocketbooks to save democracy. And we've also learned through Trump that people don't really care about democracy either, Britt. They don't give a damn about democracy. It's about my pockets, democracy. And am I protected as a white person?
Well, the good news out of Florida was that they did take, and you saw it, Florida 6 with the Josh Wheels campaign, the one that Randy Fine, who was just a bucket of guts, just 10 pounds of shit stuffed into a 5-pound bag. He won that one, but it was Trump won that district, I think, by about 30 points 4 months ago, and we cut it down to about 11 or 12 points as far as the victory. They've had to take Elise Stefanik and keep her in her seat instead of sending her to the United Nations because they're afraid she would lose a runoff in New York in a very safe seat for Republicans. So the stuff is permeating. You can lie to the American people for a number of, and they're going to lie and say there's not a recession. They're going to come up with some new ways of calculating. When you see that your neighbor's unemployed and people not being able to afford stuff, and you see, boy, the price of gasoline sure did get cheap under Trump. Yeah, because people don't have to buy any gas to get to work. It's down to under $2 again. People are going to figure out that this wasn't a really good idea.
Exactly. 100%, my brother. 100%. Good point. And we're going to stick on this tariffs and the rift it's causing, not just us, but the world and individuals who are going to have to do business off this rift. Britt, take a look at these two idiots. I think we should change the name from the name of MAGA should be Morons Against Good Americans. And here are two morons against good Americans. So, Britt, there's been a saga going on where Elon Musk is having to backpedal, and I love it so much. He's backpedaling because every other nation is saying, fuck you. Canada has blown up the contract he had for the cars. Europe is saying, F you. The more you support this tariff shit, we don't want to deal with you. And they don't care for your Nazi Heil Hitler salute either. And so over the weekend, old Musty Musk had to say, I think tariffs should. Let me see if I can get my special needs voice going properly. I think tariffs should be zero. I don't think we should have tariffs. And Britt, after he said that, would you believe who came on a national TV show and basically called Elon Musk nothing but a used car salesman? Who said that, Britt? I give you a clue. His face is on the screen.
I believe that would be Peter Navarro. Is that the other guy?
Peter, I went to jail and whacked off my Peter to save Trump, Navarro. Came on TV and said to our audience of the American people that Elon Musk don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's a used car guy and he should shut up in policy. Well, Britt, do you think Elon shut up and just let that roll? Do you think he done that?
No.
So let me show you some things that old special needs Elon had to say. He comes up here and he retorts back at Peter Navarro, basically degrading those who have a Harvard education, Britt, saying that the people who have ruined America's society for all these years have been Harvard graduates. Peter Navarro was a Harvard graduate. And then he went over here and he liked a tweet from someone who says, my favorite sow whale is this buffoon. Britt, how long before MAGA and Musk split, and we start hearing about threats of the PP tapes coming out.
Well, there's a lot to ingest there. Mommy and daddy are definitely fighting. You saw during the first Trump administration, you saw they would choose up sides, and you had these people that were on this side trying not to get him to do crazy shit. And you had the people over here that were trying to get him to do more crazy shit. And there's really no guardrails now. And now they've broken off. It seems to be Elon Musk against Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro fighting it out. I don't know who wins that. I don't know when I think we've been given a false set of goods. There's been all this stuff. I think there was a spike in Tesla shortly. And by the way, I haven't forgotten about those stock suggestions, because those ETFs that short Tesla, I want to talk about those in a little bit. The idea that Elon's going to go back very soon, and he's going to be going back and paying attention to his companies and SpaceX and all this other horse shit, and everything will be great in the valley. There are some endemic problems. I know that you've probably gone pretty in depth of what's going on at Tesla. I think somebody said that they had about a $1.4 billion in one quarter from their spreadsheet, from their financials that just went missing. You can't really account for it. And you have a lot of shareholders that are like, we have this 36 billion, we have this large stack of cash, and somehow we're still borrowing money. That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. So I don't know. There definitely is infighting within that administration right now. He's been favoring Elon because Elon, I don't know if you know this, he's the richest man on earth. He has more money than anyone else. And if we're going to, this has been a great, I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but this has been a great trope of the MAGA people for a long time, and for conservatives in general, is that they make fun of the highly educated when it suits them. They, for a number of years, were blaming, they said that the Ivy League guys are the ones that got us into Vietnam, and the Ivy League guys are the ones that got us into Iraq, and this, that, and a third. Well, you can't get into a conversation with Donald Trump for 5 seconds without him mentioning the Wharton School of Business. And I don't know if you know this, but the University of Pennsylvania happens to be an Ivy League school, as it turns out. So they for years, they've shit on education. You don't need to go to college, kids. You don't need to turn out college loans, because all we have is a bunch of social justice warriors and art history majors out there. And why do they shit on? And I'm not in any way, shape, or form deriding anyone who goes to community college or learns a trade. There's plumbers out here that can buy and sell my ass. All right. There's HVAC guys out here that can work anytime they want to, pretty much anywhere they want to. So I don't do any of that. But the reason they don't want you to be educated is because you won't figure out the shit that they're doing. That's why so many people are now living with this and figuring out, oh God, that whole tariff thing that Kamala Harris was talking about, that's not a good idea, and it's going to crash the entire economy. The less educated people that they have out there, the less people are going to stop their bullshit. And that's why they shit on education every chance they get.
Exactly. Well said, my brother. Well said. And they start shitting on education at early child care. And I noticed that there was this uptick in this shitting on education, Britt. About 5 years ago, data came out that of all the groups of people in America that have the most education in terms of number of degrees, Black women have the most education. And that's when I kind of noticed that this shit was picking up, that we need to hate education. And I'm with you. Everybody doesn't need to go to college to get a good trade skill. You don't have to do that. But as Britt said, they want you to be so illiterate about critical thinking skills that you fall for this MAGA bull job. You fall for it. And one way that hurts Black people is because they paper over African-American history and what we've contributed to this country. You might hear that George Washington had a slave that wound up being his best friend, like his pet dog, Mikey. And then they'll jump from that shit and go straight into Abraham Lincoln, freed the slaves, don't talk about the Jim Crow, none of that. Then they'll jump to Martin Luther King. He had a dream speech. And then they leave it at that. And when that happens, people don't understand the plight of not just Black people, but women, because there was a lot of suffering going on by women, which is why a lot of us are upset about DEI. DEI is not just about minorities, it's also about women. There was a time women couldn't vote, they couldn't get credit cards without their husband, they couldn't do a lot of shit unless they ran it by their husbands, and we're moving on beyond that. And I said all that to say, Britt, the thing you mentioned about Elon Musk and Tesla having that money disappear, you know what the rumor mill is about that?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Oh, so you remember how you just mentioned how we've had some issues on the books with Tesla losing $1 billion. And I was asking, do you know what the rumor mill story is about where that money is going? So Elon Musk recently sold Twitter to one of his own companies. Now, mind you, the money he got from Twitter, he had to borrow from hedge funds, banks, and private equity.
Yes, he did.
And there are rumors that some of that money got absorbed that deal to some of those people that paid it back. So, ladies and gentlemen, value education, but also know that just because you have an education don't mean you're the smartest tool in the attack. And just because you do have an education doesn't mean that you're great or anything like that. But we do need basic critical thinking skills so that you're not taken advantage of and you don't succumb to your own biases when data is sitting right in front of your face. Simple as that. And I'm loving this MAGA versus Elon, and I hope it goes to blows and they tear each other apart.
100% true.
So, Britt, I'm gonna end us on stocks, but before we get there, we've got to talk about something that's pertinent to North Carolina. Donald Trump won North Carolina. Yes, he did. But in our state elections, Democrats and progressives won pretty much overwhelmingly. And now we have a MAGA judge who's trying to steal a fucking election. And I need you guys to pay attention if you're in North Carolina so you can go on this list and make sure he's not going to steal your vote. Take a look at this, and me and Britt are riffed on it.
Okay, so this might honestly be the most important video that I've ever posted on this account. So here's the deal. In North Carolina, MAGA Republicans are trying to steal the Supreme Court race. Basically, there was a Supreme Court race. Associate Justice Allison Riggs won the race by about 730 or so votes over the MAGA candidate Jefferson Griffin. There was one recount. It confirmed that Riggs won. A second recount confirmed that Riggs won. A third recount confirmed that Riggs won. But the MAGA Republicans are still trying to block this win from actually going through. They are trying to steal this election. And so today there was this horrific court decision out of North Carolina. 2 Republicans on a 3-judge panel ruled that more than 65,000 votes, particularly in Democratic areas that likely voted for Allison Riggs, they ruled that those votes don't count as of now, that they need to be fixed. And so as of today, what they're saying is that voters have 15 days to fix their ballots or their votes will not be counted. These are the same kind of shady tactics that Trump tried to use in 2020 to steal the election. And if MAGA Republicans get their way on this, this is going to be their playbook for every election going forward. So here's my first call to action to you. Make sure that everybody knows about this. Spread the word. If you know anybody in North Carolina, make sure they're checking to ensure that their vote was counted. And if it wasn't, make sure that they go and cure their ballot. Second, I really want you to hear what Justice Allison Riggs has to say about this whole situation. And we had an opportunity to catch up with her after this ruling was issued on the Midas Touch podcast. You can listen to this interview right now on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, but I'll play you a clip right now as well.
What I am doing now, I am fighting to make sure that the will of North Carolina voters is respected. What my opponent and his allies are trying to do here is what they tried in 2020 and 2022 and failed to do, which is stop the certification of election, overturn election results that they don't like. And if they succeed here, if they succeed in North Carolina, it is like dropping a match in a dry forest, and we will not be able to contain the spread. So I know that this fight is about more than North Carolina. It's more than my seat and my oath. It is about the very soul of our democracy, and I will not stop standing up for voters and standing in the way of any politician that tries to take the power away from the people.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. They are trying to steal an election in North Carolina. And by the way, the guy that is pulling this off, this Griffith judge, he is as MAGA as he gets, believing all this old way bull jive Confederacy mess. He is as MAGA as they come. And Britt, I thought that Republicans like cute women. They do, as long as the cute woman doesn't have a position of power. And so, having said that, Britt, what are your thoughts on what's going on? What are your thoughts about what's going on in North Carolina?
They're stealing it from us in real time, right in front of our eyes, and they're doing it in the most brazen and public way they possibly can, and they just don't give a shit. I don't know if I have much more to add than that. I hope, like you said, we can get the word out there so that these 65,000 people, which I think included Miss Riggs' mom and dad, I think she's on that list. They're on that list somehow.
Yes.
I hope that people will wake up and be able not to allow them to do this, but they're in real time, right in front of our faces, trying to steal this election from us. So they don't give a shit if we see it or not.
Yeah, they feel emboldened by the Trump administration, just getting away with everything. And there's not enough people in the positions of power to hold him accountable the way it should be. And I've always complained that as a progressive, the most important thing I want to see to this country is that we get a progressive Supreme Court, because then I know at the end of the day, when bull jive gets through, we'll have a place that will be progressive in thought process and fair in thought process and throw the shit out the window. North Carolina, you have a chance to do that with our own Supreme Court. There's a link in the video description where you can go check to make sure you're not on the Griffith damn list. And if you are, you just need to go take your license to your vote, to your local elections board, show it, and make sure that your vote is counted. We can't have this mess going on. Can't have it. Godly. And I thought Republicans like cute women. They do, as long as they're blonde and don't have any power. I forgot. Damn it. Oh, Lord. So, Britt, that brings me to the subject you've been wanting to talk about. And I'm glad that you've taken a little bit of my advice and have listened to some of my stock talk. And we're going to get to that right now. But before we do, take a look at this video on the data that supports Democrats being in office when we have good booming stock markets and what happens when we have bad stock markets. Take a listen to this.
Yeah. I only like Donald Trump because of his economic plan. So when I was getting my master's in economics, one of the things I realized I liked the most about it is that there just wasn't a lot of room for opinions and feelings, right? Like the facts and the data call the winners and losers. And then it was really simple. The only major piece of economic legislation that Trump actually passed when he was president was called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And the idea is that you give tax cuts to large corporations, not to middle class people. And then when they have all that extra money, they'll pay you more and they'll create more jobs. So he passed that piece of legislation. What happened? Not opinions and feelings, not what do I feel like happened. What did the data actually say happened? The benefits of the tax cut went almost exclusively to the owners, the executives, and the high paid workers. Did middle class wages go up? No.
AT&T plans to increase $1,000 special bonus to more than 200,000 U.S. employees, and that's because of what we did.
What actually happened? AT&T got that extra money and then cut somewhere around 30,000 jobs. And then they paid their executives like way more money. In fact, nearly all of America's largest companies spent the majority of their tax cuts from Donald Trump on stock buybacks and dividends and not rewarding their hard workers. But Joshua, I remember the economy was great during the Trump years. First of all, the last 2 years were COVID, so you're only talking about freshman and sophomore year. And you remember freshman and sophomore year being good because he inherited an economy that was booming from Obama. He inherited a 2.4% GDP. He inherited an economy that was already adding around 200,000 jobs a month. He inherited an economy that was already declining in its unemployment rate. Plus, Obama, Biden, and Trump all gave America a stimulus check. Trump's just the only one that put his name on
it. Oh, Lord. So true. I gave that for all context, Britt. All
no true. Lies detected.
Well, Britt, he had the facts to back it up. That's the thing. When you can get rid of some implicit biases when you have facts to back it up. And so here's a fact, Britt. There was a great investor that me and you both love that when he found out Trump was going to win office, he started pulling cash out the market. Should I show you his face? Let me show you his face.
Yeah.
One of my role models,
the Oracle of Omaha. There he is, right there, Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. And I sent Brad a message, which is Britt's partner in the show, but I didn't send Britt a message, so forgive me. But now I do have Britt on my email list and talking list when it comes to these stocks. When Warren Buffett speaks, you have to listen. So since Trump has been in office, Britt, take a look at this shit right here. There has only been one billionaire in the top 5 to make money. Take a look at this graph.
Yeah.
Net worth changed since January. Mark Zuckerberg, punk ass, who obviously has men issues, his net worth decreased by $27 billion. Jeff Bezos, going through midlife crisis, decreased by $23.5 billion. Elon Musk, going through identity crisis, parenting crisis. They say his dick don't work because he tried to put an implant crisis, and he's got hair implants that might fall out. His billions decreased by 130. The only billionaire whose net worth went up because they saw the writing on the wall is my man Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Britt, please take delight in this list.
Warren Buffett is a very boring white guy. And sometimes when you want to go and you want to trust someone with your money, you want an extremely boring white guy. There's a bank called PNC. You've heard of PNC Bank. I think one of their slogans is now spectacularly boring since 1865. Yeah. And Warren Buffett doesn't invest in stuff he doesn't understand. He likes an S&P 500 index, and that's what he goes for. And that's the end of it. That is what he does. Imagine how broke Elon would be if he wasn't able to go ahead and give himself all these contracts, these government contracts for SpaceX and Earthlink and all this other shit. Imagine how much money he would how out he would be if he wasn't able to write his own. By the way, there's no fraud, there's no waste or anything with those contracts with his companies, huh? I guess those things are just solid.
Yeah.
Weird.
When it comes to any. Yeah, it's so weird. Deer can eat out of your fucking hands, because when it comes to Elon and Trump, for whatever the reason, there's no waste, abuse, and fraud around them. But this MFer just skipped and went to play golf, which probably cost the taxpayers at least $3 million.
Sure.
While our soldiers was being buried and while the economy is tanking, you out here playing golf, trying to raise money from the Saudis. Come on.
Absolutely. Man. He's kissing the Saudis. No, there's no question about any of that. I mean, it's just, I love seeing, and by the way, those billionaires losing that money, it won't mean anything to them. Now I think I'm down about, in my retirement accounts, I'm about down 15 or 18,000 just in the past week or so. Oh. That means something to me.
Damn right.
In order to get that money back, it's going to be really difficult. Them is 30 billion or something like that. They're not going to cut back. No, I'm only going to take one more house year.
Wow. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is where I get a chance to tell you guys some good places to put money if you're worried about what's going to happen with Trump. When we go through these kind of economic calamities, there are some stocks that have been proven to stand the test of time. They call those defensive stocks that pay dividends. The growth you see in the stock itself might be slow, but it's continued growth, because these are companies that people still going to have to go to no matter how much money they have. And let me give you that list and tell you the ones that I give a gold star to. So here's the list: Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, which has been a staple in Warren Buffett forever, PepsiCo, Walmart, Merck, McDonald's, Costco, Colgate, and Duke. Now, there's only 3 on this entire list that I'm highly recommending, Costco being number 1. The problem with some people is they feel like they can't afford Costco. And if you feel like you can't afford Costco, get a broker or ask your broker till you do fractional shares. That's my number 1 pick of the day. Procter & Gamble, they make products that you can see in the dollar store, you can see in Walmart, you see everywhere. I would definitely get them. They pay a nice dividend. Johnson & Johnson is one you should put in your portfolio because they pay a nice dividend too. And even though he's been cutting all this money for research and all this money to the NIH, They are going to survive because it is human nature. And eventually we will get back to having to overcome disease and what may have you. Because who's to say Trump is not going to fuck us up again and have a measles outbreak? And that would be what I would put on my list for defensive stuff. I don't really care about the rest of them. Britt, what do you think about this list?
I love the list. I think it's great. I saw a couple of them. I can't remember the people that are coming out with that new Grand Theft Auto game. Some guy thought that that was a good play today, at least for the short ETFs. And I'd had no idea about them before. I always knew about the idea of shorting a stock, but shorting a stock is a very and in reality, when you short a stock, there's an unlimited amount of money you can lose. The great thing about a leveraged ETF is you're shorting a stock, but you can only lose the price, whatever you put in there. You buy $100, you lose $100, you walk away from the table, right?
Britt's got it. And I'm glad you took my advice on that. The one that I mainly told Britt about was the tech leveraged bear ETF. It's called SQQQ. And what happens is anytime tech is having a bad day, anytime the NASDAQ 100 is down, this stock goes up. And this is a way you can hedge against bad days, ladies and gentlemen. Look, he's showing it to you. But the thing with these ETFs and these leveraged positions, ladies and gentlemen, they're leveraged based on the percentage these stocks move up. The SQQ is 3 times levered against the NASDAQ 100. They're not long-term holds. I just want to make sure you guys know that. And by me and Britt telling you this stuff, we're not saying we're financial advisors, so check with your advisor. But with leveraged ETFs, I don't care which one you get, it's a short-term swing hold to go through rocky times and bad days. And there's also one for SPY. The one for SPY is SPXL. If you want to trade that when SPY is doing good and get the 3% leverage on that, you can trade that one. If you want to bet down on short SPY when SPY is having a bad day, you can go to SDS. There's a whole lot of these products you can take advantage of to leverage some of this craziness Trump is doing and actually make money while he's fucking up the economy. And I had this conversation with a lot of people in my inner circle. I said he would fuck up the economy and we was going to get rich because we know about products in the stock market that can help you make money. And those are a few that you can use. Now, Britt, before I let you get out of here, I want to show you some high-flying stocks, tech stock, growth stocks that if they continue to go down, take a look at buying them, but know that you're going to be holding. Now, the thing is, because Trump is creating the chaos, these stocks have a great opportunity to bounce back very, very fast. And let me show you a list of the top 10 high flyers. Of course, I'm going to give you my recommendations. Don't buy Tesla. I don't give a damn what they say. It's not the right time to buy Tesla. Nvidia must have. Yeah, I'm just keeping it real, bro. Nvidia is a must have. Amazon, I don't like what they've done with DEI, and they do get a lot of products from these places that are going to be having tariffs. So don't worry about that one yet. Google, Alphabet, definitely buy that. Definitely get that, and it's cheaper than some of these other names. Meta, you can buy it. It's going to make money. It's a surefire thing based on the earnings and price the earnings, but I'm just not supporting Zuckerberg. PayPal is pretty much a sure thing that's going to grow because more and more places around the world are taking that so that you can pay. AMD is similar to NVIDIA. They are a chip maker, and chips are going to be needed, so you can get that one. Just forget Shopify. Don't even fuck with that. And CrowdStrike protects you from cybersecurity, and that's only going to get worse. So my recommendation is NVIDIA, Alphabet, Meta if you're feeling nasty, CrowdStrike, and AMD. Those are my recommendations. Britt, any parting words you want to give the people about the Brad and Britt podcast or your wrestling podcast before I let you get out of here, my brother? Uh-oh. I hope we ain't lose my man. He got that J-Mo internet.
I'll give you a couple more leveraged ETFs. Let me give you a couple of the leveraged ETFs that I'm interested in, that I've been playing around with, and they're the ones that short Tesla. I think they double short Tesla. TSDD, which I think you know about, Tom, Sam, David. That's one that shorts Tesla. And TSLZ, Tom, Sam, Lincoln, Zebra. I think you may like that one a little bit better because I believe the expense ratio on that one's a little bit cheaper than those two. Gold is always a good defensive play, I think, and it's been doing okay and hanging in there. There's a couple of real estate ones that are okay to get into as far as a defensive play, but again, I don't think it's not going to give you huge returns. It may give you 3, 4.5, but it beats the hell out of losing 18, 20%. And gotcha. I think it's CSRSE is a good one. That's a pretty good one. And that one, which I can't remember what product that is, but it's a bond ETF. It's BND, and that's one that's going to kind of get you through too, as well, as far as a good defensive play, I think.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, I will get more in depth about how you can gauge the day-to-day of these stocks. And since Britt has been my partner in crime, I'm going to give him a big tip that I use every day when I'm determining what I'm going to jump in and out of on a day-to-day basis. So, Britt, if you have a day where SPY is down and TQQ, which is the NASDAQ 100 leverage ETF, is if SPY and TQQ both are down at the open, SQQ is going to be going up. So that could be a day you could make a play for SQQ. And the inverse, if SPY and TQQ are up and SQQ is down, along with the VIX being down, that's when you can make a play for SPY or TQQ or any of the leverage ETFs that play SPY and TQQ. Don't say the Lamont ain't never gave y'all nothing before. That's how I run my day-to-day organization.
There you go.
When I'm making plays for day trading. That's how I run it. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, please go and check this man out so he'll come back to my channel again. We don't want to lose our good allies that we can bring to the cookout. I can bring Britt to the cookout, and they would love him. So show him some love and go download that Brad and Britt podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Link will be in description. If you're in North Carolina, make sure you go down there to find that link I have and see if you're on that Griffin list so that you can let your vote be heard. Until that next sexy as hell political video, me and Britt, we're out.